ਵਾਹਿਗੁਰੂ ਜੀ ਕੀ ਫਤਿਹ। ਬੋਲੋ ਜੀ ਵਾਹਿਗੁਰੂ।
टीवी बंद करें।
ਓੰਕਾਰ ਵਾਹਿਗੁਰੂ।
ما نخدم منين
شاباش
نخدم منين
شاباش
ما نخدم
شاباش. So hi, good evening everyone whosoever been part of this today. So we will start with the regulatory toxicology. It will be a bit long today, so be patient with me. So let's start the third session of regulatory toxicology in presentation and overview. And remember students, this weekend I will take the off. So this Friday and Saturday, this Saturday and Sunday, 31st and 1st of August, I will be not there. So we will start the classes from 2nd of August onwards. So overview of the Food and Drug Administration's FDA. So in this we will deal with all the regulatory agencies outside the US, overview of the drug development, non-clinical regulations and guidance documents, timing and types of non-clinical studies, an overview of clinical trials, and then summary out of all this. As I said, it will be a bit big lecture, around 100 slides, so be patient with me. So we are discussing since first day about FDA. So they are the Food and Drug Administration unit, which deals with all the Food and Drug Act. So which deals with all the protection of the public health by ensuring the safety, efficacy, and security of the human veterinary drugs, biological products, medical devices, and nation's food supply, cosmetics products that emit radiations. So HHS FDA. So under this FDA, there are many centers. So according to their work, according to their culture, so they are being divided. So like CDR, CBR, CDRH, CFSN, CVM, CTP, and CTRs. The respective full forms are Center for Drug Evolution and Research, Center for Biological Evolution and Research, Center for Devices and Radiological Health, Center for Food Safety and Applied Nutrition, Center for Veterinary Medicine, Center for Tobacco Products, and NCTR, National Center for Toxicology Research. So this is the a typical CDER, your Central for Drug and Drug Evolution and Research departments looks like. This is how the typical approved by the FDA organization. It's all looks like the chart, the basically the organization chart. So initially you have under the Food and Drug Administration. Yeah. So we have a office of the center director. Is a director here, let's say Janet Woodok, and then under him there will be subdivisions: Office of Regulatory Policy, Office of Compliance, Office of Medical Policy, Office of New Drugs, Office of Strategic Programs, and then Office of Pharmaceutical Quality. So there are around 6 departments under the Office of Center of Director, and under each person, under Office of Regulatory Policy there will be Office of Management, Office of Communications, right? Under the Office of Compliance there will be further 5 departments: Office of Manufacturing Quality, Office of Unapproved Drug and Labeling Compliance, Office of Science Investigation, Office of Drug Security, Integrity and Response, Office of Program and Regulatory Operations. And under the Office of Medical Policy, 2 departments: Office of Prescription Drug Promotion, Office of Medical Policy Initiatives, and so on. And it goes like this: Office of Translational Sciences, then Office of Executive Programs, and many more under them. So under CDR, the mission statement is that promote and protect public health by ensuring the safe and efficacious drugs that are available to Americans. So CDR accomplishes this mission by reviewing the data that the sponsors submit to support the safe and efficacious use of new drugs in humans. So CDR Review Division, OND, that is Office of New Drug Immediate Office. So they are the division of cardiovascular and renal products, the drug evolution one, the neurology products and psychiatric products. And the Office of Drug Evolution 2, they are the division of anesthesia, analgesia and addiction products. The division of metabolism, endocrinology products, the division of pulmonary, allergy, rheumatology products. And the division 3rd of your drug evolution, the Office of Drug Evolution, 3rd division, it has gastroenterology and bone error products, dermatology and dental products, and division of bone, reproductive and urological products. Then Office of Drug Evolution, division of medical imaging products, division of non-prescription drug products, and division of pediatric and maternal health. Then comes the last one, this Office of Antimicrobial Products, which includes your division of anti-infective products, division of antiviral products, and division of transplant and ophthalmology products. Then Office of Hematology and Oncology Products, like related to cancer. So it has division of Oncology Products 1, DOP1, and division of Oncology Products 2, DOP2. So under first, breast, gynecologic, sportive care and genitourinary, these are all included. Then the gastrointestinal, lung, neuro-oncology, cancer, solid tumor, pediatric, malignancies, melanoma, sarcoma. Then division of hematology products, DHP, malignant heme malignancy, heme to support, all these are included. Then division of hematology, oncology and toxicology, all these are included. So from where does the FDA get authority to regulate? So laws passed by the Congress, CFR Code of Federal Regulation, Manual of Policies and Procedures, and Guidance for Industry. So all these includes under them. Under the drug law, Federal Food, Drug and Cosmetic Act of 1938, which includes sulfonamide and diethylene glycol. Then Drug Amendment Act of 1962, which includes the thalidomide and birth defects, the most famous one. Then PD, UFA, which are prescription drug users, Free Act of 1992, which collects fees to fund the new drug approval processes. Then FDMA, which includes Food and Drug Modernization Act of 1997, which has 6 months of pediatric exclusivity and fast track. Then FDAA, just a second, FDAA, which are dealing with the FD Amendments Act of 2007. Then REMS, which deals with the risk evolution mitigation strategy. Then SLC, that is safety labeling changes. Then FD Asia, which deals with the Food and Drug Administration Safety and Innovation Act of 2012. So, bache, these laws that we are seeing here, these are as it is. It's like if somebody is studying, actually, regulatory affairs, sorry for the sound, regulatory affairs is all about laws actually. You're actually becoming a lawyer, legal lawyer of one pharmaceutical company. So you must be aware of these laws, which laws is for what, and when year did they came, and what are the major prescription, major dealing with them. So all these are quite necessary for the same, right? Then stages of drug development. So there is a pre-IND, then IND, your any new drug has to initiate it. Then there are 3 trials that we have discussed yesterday: phase clinical 1 trial, phase 2 clinical trials, phase 3 clinical trials. Then there is the NDA, then there is a post-marketing. So all these things are dealt in them. Then comes a review team, which has division director, deputy director, team leaders from each of the review teams, like clinical reviewer, pharmacology toxicology reviewer, product quality reviewer CMC, clinical virology reviewer, clinical pharmacology reviewer, statistic reviewer, and regulatory project manager. So types of new products regulated by FDA CDR. So these are the new entities like small molecules, biologic, others not previously tested in humans, new formulations for previously tested approved drugs, and combination of previously approved drugs. So testing of new drugs for safety and efficacy, they are done by FD or CDR, which does not apply does not test new drugs actually. So sponsors or their contractors conduct studies needed to support drug development, and sponsor submits study reports to FDA, CDR for review. So pharmaceutical, biopharmaceutical companies, academic, government institutions, and others, they are dealing in that. Then organizations which are involved in the drug development, it's your Food and Drug Administration, FDA, sponsors like pharmaceutical, biopharmaceutical companies, academic institutions and others, and contract research organizations, CROs. Charles River Laboratories. So pre-IND, that is before submitting an IND, the sponsors has to be taken care. You have to define the chemical properties of the drug, conduct non-clinical pharmacology or toxicology studies, develop clinical protocols regarding the same. So in the pre-IND meetings, you have to avoid premature submission of INDs, avoid unnecessary non-clinical studies, resolve potential safety issues, discuss the content of IND and overall drug development plan, and please provide regulatory guidance and answers appropriate questions towards it. And suggested content of pre-IND briefing packages, it includes your background information on the drug, chemical description of the drug product, chemistry, manufacturing and controls, summaries of available non-clinical toxicology, results and outline of proposed studies, brief description of proposed clinical protocols and final clinical issues, use, list of specific questions to be discussed at the pre-IND meeting. And to maximize benefits from the pre-IND meeting, so hold the meeting early in the development process, submit a complete briefing package on the proposed drug product, submit specific questions or concerns regarding the non-clinical development of the drug, include your pharmacologists and toxicologists who involve in the non-clinical development of the drug. So after you have done the pre-IND, that is the investigational new drug, now comes your afterwards. What are the things that you have to take care? So a request to start clinical trials. So commercial IND is possible, investigator IND, and single patient IND. The commercial ones, the pharmaceutical companies, whose ultimate goal is to obtain marketing approval of new product. Whereas the investigators, investigational new drugs, they submit by physicians who initiates and conduct an investigations. And single patient IND, it's a submission that is meant to treat only one patient. So IND types continued. So treatment IND, experimental drug showing promise in clinical testing for serious or life-threatening conditions that are criteria to meet, intended to treat a serious or life-threatening disease, and no comparable drug or other therapy available to treat that stage of the disease in the intended populations. So drug under investigation in a controlled clinical trials or all clinical trials have completed. Yeah. Then comes your emergency IND, which does not allow time for submission of IND, which is generally reserved for life-threatening situations. They are provided by phone, these numbers, and drug can be shipped and administered prior to the submission of application to FDA. So these are some IND reviews that you have to take care. These are some laws, just go through them. 21 CFR 312.22, 21 CFR 312.23. So some of the things that you have to take care while writing these articles, while making your review articles. Then there's institutional review boards, IRB. So IRB are any board, committee, or other groups formally designated by an institution to review or to approve the initiation and to conduct periodic review of biomedical research involving human subjects. So main purpose is to ensure the protection of the rights and welfare of the human subjects. So IRB ensure that informed consent is obtained and the document meet regulatory requirements, and risks to subjects are minimized and are reasonable in relation to the anticipated benefits, and adequate study monitoring for safety. So informed consent is obtained for every subject except where there is an exception. So offered in manner to minimize possibility of coercion, presented in understandable language, and contains no language that waives subjects' rights to release anyone from liability or negligence. So how do submissions get to the reviewers? Amendments arrives at the central development room, amendments sent to division project manager, amendments given to team leaders, and amendment assigned to the primary reviewers. So in the first 30 days, study cannot proceed until the 30 days from the FDA receipt. So 30 days safety review, an internal meeting before 30 days to review the application together to determine whether the proposed study is safe to proceed. Then there are clinical holds, that if some study is going on, then during the phase 1, if human subject something happen, there is significant risk in that. So unqualified investigator, IB misleading, erroneous or incomplete or insufficient information to assess the risk. So any region cited above and protocols deficient in design to meet stated objective, which can be imposed at any time. So unless accompanied by clinical hold, agency commits to IND sponsor. So there could be partial and full clinical holds possible. So now comes your new drug application. How a new drug application is done in the market. So what is the request? So request has to be done to market the drug. So that is called as new drug application. So it has to be taken care of clinical safety and efficacy data, clinical pharmacokinetic data, non-clinical pharmacology, toxicology data, chemistry data, package labeling, administrative information. Then NDA types. So NDA types includes your new molecular entity, new active ingredients, new dosage form, new combination, new formulation or new manufacturer, new indication, same manufacturer, drug related marketed but without approved NDA. That is reaction to OTC. Then efficacy supplements, and efficacy supplements is defined based on the type of change that is being made, not the type of data that supplement contains. The sponsor should submit a red line version of the proposed labeling so the FDA can also see the proposed changes. So types of efficacy supplements. So some supplements has to be taken, go through them, just have a read. Then labeling supplements, the changes being affected, prior approval, diffusion requested labeling, conversion to physician labeling, which does not require a user fee. So type of new drug application, so 505B1, 505J, 505B2. So 505B1, it's applicant on or have a right of reference to all the investigations relied upon the application to support approval of NDA. Then comes generic application, and then third one, an NDA that relies for approval on investigations not conducted by or for the applicant. So type of reviews, they are priority review, accelerated approval, fast track designation, rolling submission. So priority reviews, they are the one, they estimates indicate the drug product, if approved, has potential and to be approved. So S&D therapy, where there is no satisfactory alternative, a significant improvement compared to marketed product, and allows approval based on a surrogate endpoints. Then breakthrough designation, so like all the programs directed at drugs of special importance. So FD Asia breakthrough designation is for drugs that may treat or serious life-threatening conditions, could represent substantial improvements over the available therapy. This is one of the important part, that is your biologics. Biologics, what are biologics? They are the biological products like a virus, therapeutic serum, toxin, antitoxin, vaccine, blood component or derivative, allergenic product, protein or analogous product applicable to the prevention. So treatment or cure of disease or conditions of human beings. So therapeutic biological products were transferred from CBR to CDR in 2003. So therapeutic biologic products, so monoclonal antibodies of in vivo use, proteins intended for therapeutic use, or cytokines, growth factors, enzymes, and other non-vaccine therapeutic immunotherapies. Then current biologic laws, so Public Health Service Act 1994, so Section 351, licensure of biological establishment and product, Federal Food, Drug and Cosmetic FDAC Act, then Patient Protection Affordable Care Act. So all these acts, so in this 21st century, if you want to review any article or any review, any research that is going on, so first is the pre-submission activities are done, and in the first month process submission, then plan review in the first month, and then from 2 months to 10 months, you will conduct the review and take official action by the end of a month, in the last 2 months. Then have some post-action feedback. So in this way, your almost 1 year is been carried out for any review, that is any new drug has to be administered into the market. So take like this, just taking the paperwork and all these things, it's not easy, but yeah, but it's also one of the important part while doing so. So 21st century review, it's a receive electronic submission from the sponsor. The submission is date stamped on the document and ensure conformance to regulatory requirements. Establish review team, distribute submission, acknowledge receipt of submission by day 14. So 21st century review, planning the review, so hold filling, planning meeting, day 45, inform applicants of review clock, notify applicant of refuse to file determination, advisory committee meeting required, and finalize sites for inspection, and send consults to other divisions, and official action and post marketing. Then 21st century review, PDUFA, that is PDUFA 5 program. This applies to enemy ND and original BLA. This is fiscal laws, physical years. Then user fee for all these is like to collect fees from the companies that produce certain human drug and biological products. So user fee is required to submit clinical information to the FDA for review. So fees are original application like 2,37,374 2,374,200. I forgot to say that. So formal meeting types. So there are type A, B, and C. In type A, there's a stall development, and then type B is a pre-IND and end of phase 1, end of phase 2, then pre-NDAs. Then in the type C, all others face-to-face or teleconference meetings that happen. So timelines for the type A is within 30 days. For type B is within the 60 days of meeting request, and C is within the 75 days. So in the first type A meeting, package due to least 2 weeks before formal meeting, then package due to least 4 weeks before formal meeting, and package due to least 4 weeks before formal meeting. So we have discussed all about USA so far, how in the USA where FDA works, how the various NDA application, how the all the scenario, how it works, how the department works, how the CDFR works, how the CDR works. Now comes regulatory agencies outside United States. That is in the Europe is a European Medicine Agency, UMA, EMA, sorry. So EMA, European Medicines Agency, which is decentralized body of European Union with headquarters in London. So evaluates, supervises medicines for human and veterinary use. Scientifically evaluates marketing authorization for medicinal products and scientific work conducted by the committees. So EMA committees, Committee for Medicinal Products for Human Use, Committee for Medicinal Products for Veterinary Use, and Committee for Orphan Medicinal Products, COMP, and then Committee on Herbal Medicinal Products like HMPC, and then Pediatric Committee and Committee for Advanced Therapeutics, CATs. In United Kingdom, it has Medicines and Healthcare Product Regulatory Agency, MHRA. It's one of the most dominated and one of the important part of the United Kingdom, which assess safety, quality, and efficacy of medicines for human use, and oversees audit of medical devices, operates post-marketing surveillance for adverse events, and regulates clinical trials for medicines and medical devices. And the Japan is the Pharmaceutical and Medical Device Agency, that is PMDA, which was established in 2004, provide relief services to those suffering from adverse drug effect, infections from biological products and others, and conduct approval reviews for pharmaceutical devices, provide guidance, advice relating to clinical trials and other related functions, and ensure post-marketing safety. Now comes non-clinical regulations and guidance documentations. So what are the regulations and guidance? The regulation is basically to provide plans for enforcing any law, legal binding, defined in Code of Federal Regulations, CFR, whereas the guidance is the proper direction and course of action, but they are not legally binded in them. So regulations includes Code of Federal Regulations, that is GPOSS.gov CFR index. So these includes your Code of Federal Regulations. Then examples of regulations are 21 CFR 58, which are good laboratory practice for non-clinical laboratory studies, and 21 CFR 312, which investigational new drug application, and 21 CFR 314, application for FDA approval to market a new drug. So good lab practice 21 CFR 58 looks like this form. This is the website of the USA Food and Drug Administration, FDA, US Department of Health and Human Services. So if you put this CFR Code of Federal Regulation Title 21, so you can watch all the rules about it under them. Some historical perspective now of GLP, good lab practices, how they are meant. So until mid 1970, FDA assumed that study reports accurately describe study conduct and precisely reported study data. So 1974 to 75, FDA reviewed facilities and found serious deficiencies about them. So good laboratory practices, regulations developed to ensure quality of data in studies. And GLP, which prescribe good laboratory practices for conducting non-clinical regulatory studies that intended to support application for research of marketing permits for products regulated by the Food and Drug Administration. And it does not apply basic exploratory studies carried out to determine if test article has any potential utility or to determine physical or chemical characteristics of test articles. So the GLP, what are the scopes? Organizational personnel, facilities, equipment, testing facility, operations, test and control reticles, protocols, records and reports. So this is nice. You can see here very nice, beautiful, with the red eye in there and about to get used in experiments. So guidance documents now. So we have discussed a lot of regulations so far. Now guidance documents, International Conference on Harmonization, that is ICH, Harmonization for Better Health, or CDR, the Center for Drug Evolution and Research. So these two departments deal with that. So what are why are there guidance documents? So according to 21 CFR 312, Pharmacology and Toxicology, So adequate information about pharmacological and toxical studies of the drug involving regulatory in animals or in vitro, on the basis of which the sponsor has concluded that it is reasonably safe to conduct the proposed clinical investigations. So the kind, duration, scope of animal and other tests required varies with the duration and scope of the proposed clinical investigation. So guidance documents are available from FDA that describe ways in which these requirements may be met. So ICH process established in 1990 to improve efficiency of the new drug approval process in Europe, Japan and United States. So regulators and industry representatives from all three regions participate. Harmonized topics are safety, quality, efficacy and multiple disciplinary. So you can find these guidance on these websites: fda.gov, ema.europe.eu and ich.org. So this is the typical drug development scenario looks like. So you have a preclinical research, then clinical studies, and then NDA review, a new drug application. How these things together, they work together very nicely. So let's check. So in the preclinical research, you synthesize and purify your drug, go for animal testing, short term, and it could be long term. Then in the clinical studies, phase 1, 2 and 3, then accelerated development review about that and treatment in the your new drug application. And at the end, in between you can see these triangles. So here IND is submitted here, then NDA is submitted in this part, and the review decision is taken here, and the sponsors answers any questions from review on this part. So here are on the green point, these are our advisory committees, and sponsors FDA meetings are encouraged on this yellow diamonds point. Then chemistry, manufacturing and control, that is CMC, which address discipline specific scientific and regulatory concerns to ensure that manufacturing and control process result in safe drug being produced for clinical trials and marketing. So for non-clinical perspective, non-clinical studies are conducted to support clinical trials and ultimately approved for new drugs. So how do non-clinical and clinical development influences each other? So how do you get from non-clinical studies into the clinical? So what type of non-clinical studies are needed to continue clinical development? So what role do non-clinical studies play in clinical trial design? So that's how. So type and timing of non-clinical studies. So non-clinical studies, M3 GLP, this is safety pharmacology, pharmacokinetics, general toxicology, local tolerance, genotoxicity, carcinogenicity, reproductive toxicology, special studies. This is school mouse on the cheese. And then exceptions are ICH M3, recommendations for types and timing of studies most directly applicable to the systematically. Or exceptions are life-threatening conditions, topically applied products, certain medical image agents and biologics. ICH 76. Then types and timings of non-clinical studies, pharmacodynamics, in vitro metabolic profile and plasma protein binding, systematic exposure and comparative in vivo animal and human metabolism data. So prior to phase 1 and generally prior to phase 3. For the cardiovascular, respiratory and central nervous system, so the small molecules and biologicals are product specific prior to phase 1, general toxicology phase 1, 2 and 3. So like and so on, bacterial mutation, chromosomal aberration, reproductive toxicology, carcinogenesis. That's just giving a brief review about types and timings of the non-clinical studies. Yeah. So what is the role of non-clinical studies? They are the data from the non-clinical studies which are used to support the safety of clinical trials and drug approval. So identify adverse effect of a drug, select starting dose for phase 1 clinical trials and support safety for ongoing clinicals. And question that non-clinical studies answer. So what are the toxic doses in animals? What are the target organs? How do the toxic doses compare to the effective clinical dose? And can the toxicities be monitored in patients in the clinical trials? Now the toxicities are reversible. So overview of clinical trials. So clinical trials basically are divided into three parts: 1, 2 and 3. Phase 1, 2 and 3 trials. Phase 1 is the safety and pharmacokinetics, generally 20 to 80 subjects, closely controlled. And phase 2 is the efficacy and safety, usually no more than several hundred subjects, closely controlled. And phase 3 is the efficacy and safety, several hundreds to several thousand subjects. Then clinical trials, phases of clinical investigations defined in 21 CFR 312.21. An IND may be submitted for one or more phases of an investigation, whereas a clinical investigation of a new drug is generally divided into three phases, that is phase 1, 2 and 3. In the phase 1, it includes your initial introduction of new drug into humans, closely monitored, safety, pharmacokinetics, drug metabolism, mechanism of action, healthy volunteers or patient, and generally 20 to 80 subjects. In phase 2 clinical trials, evaluate effectiveness of a new drug. For particular indications in patients with disease, define dose for phase 3, determine short-term risk and side effects, closely monitored, no more than several hundred subjects. Then clinical trials, phase 3 clinical trials performed after preliminary evidence of efficacy has been demonstrated, intended to gather additional information on safety and efficacy, evaluation risk versus benefit, and several hundred to several thousand subjects. So what are phase 1A, 1B, 2 and 2B? So no regulatory definitions or descriptions. Way to classify, subdivide them. So in a phase 1A, you give single dose, and the phase 1B, you repeat the same dose. So you can see many patients sitting there. So they are all for the clinical trials. The people will, the scientists will see what are the effects of the drugs on the people. So in the phase 0, which is exploratory IND approach, limited human exposure, no therapeutic intent, no intended to examine tolerability, and non-clinical approach more limited than the traditional IND, and most applicable to imaging agents. What is phase 0? Is IND guidance of documents, exploratory IND studies, IECH guidance on non-clinical safety, studies for the conduct of human clinical trials, and marketing authorization for pharmaceuticals. Types of actions: approval, complete response, results of studies, lack of evidence of efficacy, complete and manufacturing issue, and so on. Then comes your packaging, that is printed information provided direction for the use of adequate warnings, which should contain non-clinical, clinical and chemistry information. FDA and sponsors negotiate content. And then carcinogenesis, mutagenesis, impairment of fertility, pregnancy category, animal pharmacology or animal toxicology. Advice for interacting with FDA. So formal meeting between FDA and sponsors has to be done by the applicants by the PD UFA products. You can go through this PDF. Yeah, that's the office of the FDA there, and that's it. So I'll share these links with you. This one, right? So class, maybe I will take some off now. We can have classes from Monday onwards, Monday evening. Maybe or maybe not. I will tell you if I have a class tomorrow or not. I might, yeah, some plans. So we will see us. So far we are done positively with the 3 good classes of regulatory affairs. If I'm not available tomorrow due to some internet connection, so I will be some out of station for some reason. So if not, so we will see us on Monday then. Yeah, but I will make sure your things will be over this week, and we will do all the remaining classes also. Yeah, so just excuse me for some days, as we have already Saturday and Sunday off, right? Our Saturday and Sundays off will be there. So but on Thursday and Friday I might or might not, so I will let you know in the afternoon so how it will be. So thank you very much. Wish you all a good evening. Take care, yeah, and sleep well. Good night. Bye bye.